In the late 2000s, there were any number of sports sedans you could buy with a V8 engine. M3s, RS4s, C63s, CTSVs, and of course, the ISF. And as car enthusiasts, we're all kicking ourselves for not buying some of those cars a few years ago when they had depreciated to next to nothing, much like we wish we would have bought Bitcoin back then. But fortunately, there are still a few car companies that make a V8 sports sedan. And while this isn't an ISF, it still has the heart of one. Welcome everyone to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive. My name is Kurt, and today, of course, we're going to be taking a look at the latest Lexus IS500. We're going to be taking a look outside, inside. I'm going to show you some of the features. Then for fun, we're going to throw a bike in the back to see how usable it is. And then most importantly, we're going to take it for a drive to see what it's like out on the road. I'm quite excited to be driving this car today because I used to own a Lexus ISF. And as I said earlier, while this isn't an ISF, it is the closest thing that we get to it. And I'll tell you what, it sure does look the part, at least to me. What do you guys think in the comments below? I am a huge fan of this color. It has an interesting name called Grecian Water Blue. In low light situations, it looks just sort of like a regular blue, but when you put some sun on it, it has a nice sparkle to the paint. It's a really beautiful color. From an exterior perspective, it looks pretty similar to the IS350. But that's not the worst thing in the world because in my opinion, the IS350 looked quite aggressive, but couldn't quite back it up with that naturally aspirated V6 engine. This at least has a V8, so it packs a punch. Really the easiest way you're gonna be able to differentiate the 350 from the 500 are these 19-inch wheels wrapped in the Bridgestone Potenza tires and the two-piece brake rotors. The bigger brakes are one of a couple things that they did change with the IS500, which of course you're gonna need more stopping power with more horsepower. Finally, in the back, we have an iconic thing from the F division of Lexus, the quad exhausts. This is pretty iconic to the performance Lexus models at this point, and if you ask me, it looks awesome. Inside the ISF, it starts to feel a little bit dated. This car has been refreshed recently, but it's still on a pretty old architecture, and it kind of shows. There are two plus sides, though. One, it's very usable. A lot of physical controls. A lot of vehicles have gone to all digital buttons, but you have a lot of physical buttons here, like for your HVAC and heated and cooled seats. Outside of it being usable, it's actually pretty nice in here as well. The dash is stitched, which is a nice touch, and overall the materials are decent for a $56,000 base price, but when you start to think of this being closer to $70,000 for their launch edition or their upper tier models, it starts to show its age a little bit. I love these seats. They do seem to be identical to the IS350F Sport that I drove, but that's not a bad thing. They are quite nice, supportive, yet comfortable, and they do have lumbar support, which is big for me with a shitty back. The design of the steering wheel hasn't changed, nor has the gauge cluster, but they're both awesome designs. I love the design of the steering wheel. It has a lot of buttons on it, but it doesn't feel cluttered to me, and I like the F Sport logo on the bottom. Shape is great, and then moving to the gauge cluster, nice center mounted tack. They're clearly focusing on the performance here. And as far as digital tachs are concerned, this is a great implementation of one. Super fast to respond, and it has nice graphics and a nice sweep motion to it. One nice thing I like in here compared to the TLS Type X is the fact that you can use this touchpad to interact with the infotainment, or you can just touch the screen, either one. In some models, you kind of just have this touchpad, which I don't love, but the fact that you can touch the screen and it is very simple and albeit dated, at least it's really easy to navigate.
Time for the bike test. As you can see, there was no way this thing was going in with the front wheel on. After removing the wheel and putting the rear seat down, it was surprisingly easy to get a bike back there. While we're talking space, the back seat isn't great for larger adults. At 6'1", I hit my head in the ceiling and there isn't a ton of legroom. It's actually shockingly small for this size sedan. Oh, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing, and you won't miss future content.
Time for a drive. IS500 V8. Oh, baby. God, it puts a smile on your face. It is such a shame that V8 engines are going away. Oh my God. You know, sometimes I try and start these videos with some more subtle things about the car that maybe you wouldn't expect or anticipate, but look, let's be honest. The big story here is the V8. Just not many manufacturers are doing this anymore. And that's what makes this car special. It sounds absolutely incredible. And there will be one point in this video where I shut up and just let the car talk, because I'm sure some of you probably get tired of me talking sometimes and you just want to hear this lovely V8. But that's not yet. It's an interesting sound because it sounds familiar. This Toyota V8's been around for a little while. They've put it in some different products, and not too long ago I drove the LC500 with the same engine. And my understanding is in that car they had a sound tube coming from the intake to give you like some real throatiness to get kind of like more induction notes. You still get induction notes in this, but my understanding is they don't have that sound tube in this. And don't get me wrong, it still sounds amazing, and they are not piping engine noise through speakers by any means, so that's really good. But it does have a different tone to the LC500. It's kind of got its own like little unique growl. Bro, I mean, this engine is no joke. A lot of people will talk about it and say, well, you know, it's all about the theater, which it is, but kind of discount it like it's not fast enough compared to the competitors. The competitors are much faster, which to an extent is true. The competitors are a lot faster. The BMWs of the world in this segment, you know, they had just like bomb engines. That B58 engine is so fast, but this is no slouch. Like, it's still properly quick. This is a tight road, like a relatively tight road, but we still get to wind it out a little bit. Oh my goodness, all about that engine. It is let down a little bit by denying me a shift. Right on cue. Right on cue. I was just about to complain about the transmission, and what did it do? Did something that pisses me off. It denied me a shift. This transmission really dates the car. I mean, you know, the naturally aspirated V8 has been around for a while, but it doesn't like feel like it dates the car. God, this car is quick. But the transmission, it's old. It feels at least 10 years old, and that's probably because it is. It has quick upshifts most of the time, but you know, other parts of the time when it denies you a downshift, even though you have the revs, sometimes the downshifts are very slow. A lot of times it's clunky. It's just like, even around town, like it's a torque converted automatic, it should be smooth, right? But it's just like a little bit clunky. It really dates the car. It's kind of it's not a deal breaker for me because it's still decent, but oh wow, this road just straight ends. Clearly I haven't been here before, so excuse me as I turn around. I must have missed a turn. But what I did want to say about this transmission is that I guess in the grand scheme of things, at least it will last you. And that's kind of one of the most important parts about this car, right? Is that it's a Toyota tried and true combination. And assuming I can make this turn, it is known for being able to last. So at least it has that going for it. Now, how about the chassis? Fantastic. Reminds me so much of that IS350F Sport that I drove, and probably because it's not that much different. Obviously, engine, transmission, they did some braking changes. They did retune the suspension, but it feels, you know, unless I drove them back to back, they feel very, very similar. But that's not a bad thing, because that IS350F Sport I actually really, really liked. I commented in that video on how well that chassis was balanced. You know, not a heinous amount of understeer or oversteer. It just kind of like danced with you. And my only complaint to that car, in fact, was that the engine was very lackluster. And well, hey, guess what? They didn't answer my prayers. They answered everybody's prayers. But this is really what this chassis needed, just a more powerful engine. And it's so fun on a back road like this. Oh man, do I love this car. And what's crazy is like this dual personality. I was just driving here on the PCH, cruising, listening to this amazing Mark Livingston sound system, which is very good, by the way, I should add. And it was quiet, it was refined, it was a very chill experience. I was just, you know, enjoying a nice Sunday. And then I got in these canyons and started hustling a little bit, and it's like, who is this car? Like, where does this come from? It's, when you want a good sports sedan, like, you need it to do two things, right? You need it to be quiet and comfortable GT car for when you're using it 90% of the time, but when you push it that 10% of the time on that twisty road, when you've had a rough day, that you want it to like respond, and this car does that. And it has that theater to it. It has the V8, it has the sound. It doesn't make sense. Like, this is old. Like, why do I like this so much? This is old technology. The engine's old, the transmission's old. This chassis been around for a long time. And while they have updated it, it doesn't make sense that this should be so good. But maybe that's the thing, is some of us, as I get denied another shift, some of us don't love the direction that a lot of new cars are going. And the fact that we have what is somewhat old technology in a brand new package, in a brand new car, is actually really refreshing. Really refreshing. Brakes are good. They upgraded them, thank God, for this bigger engine, because of course the car's a lot faster. 14-inch rotors in the front. They claim a two-piece setup, which I guess technically they are a two-piece setup, but it's like one piece. Like, you can't remove the hats from the rotor. So I don't know, that must just be like marketing bragging. Okay, it gave me the shift that time. Other than the transmission, the only thing that I really don't like is other manufacturers have made huge strides, and this is something that people don't really talk about, and it's hard to quantify, but other manufacturers have made huge strides in the traction control setup. And what I mean by that is other manufacturers have found ways to keep the traction control on, but keep it fun without killing power completely. And Toyota errs on the side of caution / maybe hasn't quite figured that out yet. Their traction control compared to other manufacturers is so invasive. So when you come out here and sometimes you try to push it a little bit more, still within the boundaries of, you know, reasonableness, it will kill the power and a little bit kill the fun. So you're tempted to take the traction control off, but I encourage you not to do that in this car, because this V8, it can bite. And this transmission, it has like hard shifts, so it can like unsettle the car pretty easily, and you can get out of hand in a hurry. So as tempting as it is to turn that traction control off, you shouldn't. We just came to a stop for a stop sign, and that's fortunate because we get to go again. Dude, this car is fast. Holy cow. Like, as cars get faster, and I just talked about how, you know, the BMWs of the world are faster to 60 than this. But gosh, on a road like this, I don't want any more speed. I have plenty. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the seats are comfortable. The back seats, there's not a lot of room. So like, if you have kids, this makes a lot of sense. Like, kids will fit back there fine. But if you have to put adults back there a lot, they're not going to be super happy. Like, my head is hitting the ceiling when I sit in the back. I'm looking for downsides, but you know, the fact that it's old technology, maybe that pisses some people off. If you're someone who is a magazine racer and you have to brag to your friends like, oh, I have the fastest car, 0 to 60, my BMW, blah, blah, blah. Like, this isn't the car for you. Like, you just won't buy this, which is fine. Some people need those stats, but if you are somebody who appreciates the driving experience for what it is, you like a V8 engine, you like something with theater and character, this has, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this has more character than the 340s, the BMW 340s of the world that I've driven. It has sound, and it has presence too. Like, people seem to really like it. This color is amazing. I don't know what else to say. It's a fantastic package from Lexus, and of all companies, you know, if 10 to 15 years ago you would have told me that, Kurt, the V8 engine is going away, electrification is the big thing, and there's going to be one company that's going to be carrying the torch for V8 naturally aspirated engines, I never in a million years would have guessed it was Toyota. So this seems like a perfect time to end the video, because what in the hell is going on up here other than going literally 5 miles an hour? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you know, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, it's just such a weird thing that nostalgia is so powerful, and this V8 engine is going away. And despite the fact that this is 62 grand and it seems like a lot of money for a vehicle that is relatively ancient by terms of specs, you know, if you want a car that's going to last you a long time, I don't think this makes a lot of sense to lease. You know, at 62 grand, you buy it and you hold on to it for a long time, because you want to keep a V8 engine for a long period of time, and a Toyota is the one to do it, right? Like, you don't want to buy a car that is going to last you into the time when there's no V8s. That is going to be unreliable. So that's the selling point here. 62 grand, a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but you want a V8 to last you, and you want a great car, look no further. Really, really enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace. Oh, if you enjoyed the video, I always forget to do this. Like and subscribe. Do all the YouTube things. All right, now, peace. All right, remember when I promised just engine sound and driving? Here you go. So good. It's so good, guys. Last thing I forgot to say, I typically put these cars in like comfort settings. This has adaptive suspension, which I forgot to mention, and I typically always put them just in a comfort setting, but in this car the suspension is quite soft, which is great for daily driving, and it's even fine up here, but I put it in full like aggressive suspension mode, Sport Plus, and it's great. It's so good. It's not too firm like some vehicles get in Sport Plus. So last little bit of hidden content or something like that. All right, really this time, peace.